Welcome to Mud Rogue on Frost. I want to wish you all a happy Memorial Day. If you're here in the United States, we celebrate today. It's a day of remembrance for the people, who have, the men and women of the armed forces that have died for freedom. I'm not going to get too much into politics about died for freedom, but that is what the holiday's for. And I want to applaud those men and women around the world who they personally are doing the right thing in their heart to advance freedom and liberty. Regardless of what the motivation of their governments may be, as an individual, they do it. They do it for a good cause in their heart. So that is why I applaud. I applaud the individual who is willing to give his life for goodness, because that is truly what they believe, regardless of what the politics behind their mission may be. So those of you that are, this is a Foster's. It's a big ass can, ain't it? Those of you, and I got some apple slices and munch with it. Those of you that are new to the channel, Mud Rogue is a news and commentary channel, and I'm a little bit all over the place. I am very informal. Let's pop this one. Look at that. I am a very laid back beer drinking commentating channel. I don't always drink the beer. There's a time I used to do it every time. Today's a holiday, so I'm gonna. That's pretty good. Wow, that's a good flavor to it. Full flavor. That ain't no Bud Light. Wow. No, I get no endorsements. YouTube hates me. I make nothing off this channel. Anyways, so let's get going with today's show. I know in this video posted by Jackson Hinkle, the Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent. That is what Lindsey Graham will say in this video. This video is from the Sun of this is a British publication. Imagine what the United States response would be if Russia was saying this about American citizens. Lindsey Graham is not so much happy. Actually, if you look at the video, he's not happy at all. I mean, he's indifferent. It's like, whatever, to Ukrainian freedom. He has a smirk and a laugh. He's happy at the death of Russian people, of Russian soldiers. Let's take
best money we've ever spent.
Let's let me get it to the beginning.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent.
The smirk on his face. This is, and he's a representation of the mentality in the West. It is not. He's a Republican, but it's not just Republicans. It's Democrats. It's not about politics to these people. It is about power. It's not even about money. It is about power. It is about control. It is about dominating every human being on the planet. And Russia, along with China and a couple other countries, stand in the way of what I call the Great Lizard Dream. The dream of offing, eliminating, 7.5 billion people off the face of the earth. They have talked about it. They have wrote articles. They've straight out come out and said it. And people ignore them because the number is so huge and so unimaginable that these monsters actually want to kill 85% apparently, allegedly for the YouTube, but roughly of the human population on the planet and enslave the remaining 500 million people. Enslave them to keep them living well. Oh, these monsters. Yes, but listen on.
Free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
And he has to throw in, and the Russians are dying, because that is what is important to him, that the Russians are dying. He wants Russian soldiers dead. In my opinion, he wants Russian civilians back in Russia starving to death. He wants the entire bloodline of what is Russian, of what is that Slavic people to be eliminated off the face of the earth, because they have a fighting spirit. They will not put up with this crap. They will not put a chain around their neck. They will not put a mark on their forehead or their wrist. They will not play ball. And because Russia is a strong Christian nation opposing these demonic monsters, they want them dead. Let's listen a bit more here.
It's the best money we've ever spent.
Thank you so much.
No, it's
free.
Everything I say on YouTube is alleged, and you should not believe me, but believe YouTube. If you listen to me over on Odyssey, you can ignore all the disclaimers because I don't lie. I'm right about everything I tell you. And if I'm not right today, eventually the truth comes out. All right, guys, here we have the Wagner Cheif Prigozhin. I'm going to read what he says. The translation in this entire video is alleged, and I cannot confirm the accuracy. I have to say that for YouTube. So let's take a quick listen to what we have going on here. Throughout the operation, I selected 50,000 prisoners, of which around 20% died. Whew. That'll be about 10,000 of the 20%, I believe. Yeah, about 10,000. So a lot of troops out of the 50,000. And approximately the same dead from those who had a contract, 20,000 in total. There are two types of Wagner troops. They're all under contract, but there are the convict contractors, and there are the mercenary contractors. It shows that he uses his troops pretty consistently. So they lost about 10,000 of the 50,000 and 10,000 of the other contracted ones. I'm not sure how many of those there would have been. I'm presuming that there were 50,000 of those troops also, but I don't think so. So he's lost 20, which would mean that that mercenary contractors actually got the tougher duties. But a total of 20,000 of the troops that he had died or casualties? I'm sorry, I believe it's casualties. Another 20% are wounded. Those that cannot. Perform combat missions for 3 months or more. So 20% of his total forces is out of action for at least 3 months. Or just out. So the results are as follows. We destroyed 50,000 Ukrainian soldiers. The number of wounded is harder to count. So destroyed. The Wagners killed 50,000 Ukrainian soldiers, and in return they lost. I believe he says they lost dead 20,000 Wagner troops, of which 10,000 were prisoners and 10,000 were true mercenaries. But around 50 to 70,000 were wounded. So that's where you get the number of people. And this is where I made the mistake. I was saying that the that the Ukrainians suffered 120,000 dead in Bakhmut. That's where you get the number of 120,000 by going the high wounded and the 50,000 dead. So you get 120,000 casualties, which is quite a bit. And because their evacuation was always difficult. So the Ukrainians had higher casualty or wounded casualty rates than the Wagners because it was far more difficult for the Ukrainians to get their troops out once they had been injured. Some of those injuries turned to death, or just the injuries, I guess, accelerated. We advanced, cut off their flanks, and so on. We were able to take out our wounded and dead, but they couldn't, which just compounded the death rate and, I guess, injuries among the Ukrainians. These are the Ukrainian losses. I've got 3 times less dead. A little. If he gets a third of 50,000, that's I think that's a little bit less. His numbers are a little off, but all right, let's go with 3 times less dead. Because he has 20,000 dead, and they got 50,000 dead, then he's closer to that. That's another 5,000, and you're already at 50% dead. So I think his claim of 1/3 less dead is not accurate. Oh yeah, okay. or it could even be lower. Jackson Hinkle was saying that Prigozhin's numbers on his own casualties are higher than they actually are. Prigozhin he's one of them people. He might feel that if he puts out higher casualty rates, that would help him with the Russian military and pressure on the Russian military to keep his supplies coming. Because, hey, look what I'm suffering. Look what I'm doing. It's such a hard job. You better give me everything I asked for. I don't look at the casualty rates. So he has a motivation to up his own numbers. But that's just speculation from some of the commentators I'm listening to. So let's just finish off what he's saying. And approximately twice less wounded. These numbers, even 20,000 dead Russians in taking Bakhmut, is not a number that hurts Russia, and is not a number that they're convicts. They're guys who were going to be in prison for a long, long time, or they were in prison on life terms. I'm presuming they were alleged for the YouTube. But there are guys that were in prison. They were out of the societal system. Cruel to say, but they're not going to be missed that much. Okay? They're not. And so there were 10,000 of those, plus the wounded. Another 10,000 are true mercenaries. And I've heard those, some of them are foreigners. They're from the Middle East. They're from Africa. Some of those true mercenaries are Russian men. And again, these are guys that signed up for money to go to war. They're not Johnny next door or Ivan next door that bags your groceries over at the corner market. They're not Igor over at the gas station that changes your tire when it breaks down. These are rough and tough men, both the convicts and the true mercenaries under contract. So the 20,000 dead, they're not going to be missed. So what about Russian soldiers? I've mentioned this before. Where is the Russian army? And I've tried to tell people this. I believe it was Jackson Hinkle. If I can find it, I'll put it up. But recently, when the Ukrainians sent a force into Russia, pre-war Russia, and invaded a border town, and it was Ukrainians, in my opinion. It wasn't some rebellious Russian revolutionary group, but alleged for the YouTube. When they went in there, they were met by Russian forces who had a marking on their vehicles, according to Jackson Hinkle, which was the Triangle Z. Jackson Hinkle was saying that the Triangle Z, let me put myself back up, that the Triangle Z marking, which is a triangle with a Z in it, had never been seen in the wild. You don't see that marking, according to him, in Ukraine. And I think I know who the Triangle Zs are, and there are probably other markings. I told you guys, Russia has a military of 1.2 million active duty servicemen. 1.2 million. Everyone acknowledges that. But there are not 1.2 million soldiers in Ukraine. What is in Ukraine is 300,000 call-ups, reservists. Yeah, they're Russian now, they're Russian army. But they weren't pre-war Russian army. So there are 300,000 call-ups in Ukraine. There are Chechens in Ukraine. There are Wagners in Ukraine. Wagner prisoners, Wagner, mercenaries in Ukraine. There are forces from the eastern provinces or republics of Russia in Ukraine. And there are an additional, I believe, 80,000 Russian volunteers that joined the army and came to Ukraine. Where are the 1.2 million Russian soldiers? They're not in Ukraine. There's about 600,000 Russian forces in Ukraine right now, of which about, I'm going to say 500,000 are not Russian army, or they're not pre-war Russian army. If you ever notice, if you see a lot of older men in the trenches and the wounded, and when you see Russian forces, of course Ukrainian, because they're out of young men. But where are those young Russian troops? What an army normally is. Your standing army normally would be guys 26 and below. My guesstimate, right? That's just what I've seen. they're not in Ukraine. So the Triangle Z, when the Ukrainians went into pre-war Russia, into that Russian province, Belgrade, I believe, or something like that, they ran into the Russian army. The Triangle Z showed up. Forces that are not in Ukraine, forces that are in Russia. This is something why the West is so tentative in the way they handle with Russia. They realize that they're getting their ass whooped, their resources depleted, not by the Russian military, but by the Russian bench warmers, the second team, by the reservists that were bagging groceries some months ago. And the death rate among that group, the Russian columns, is a lot less. Russia is very careful how they use them. They don't do human waves, as the Pentagon Papers revealed. That was all Ukrainian propaganda. The bulk of the heavy lifting, unfortunately, has been left up to Chechens, Wagners, and other soldiers, while Russia has been very careful to protect its ethnic Russian soldiers, which is smart. You want to keep your home losses, your actual home team losses, low in order to maintain high public support. So anyway, I wanted to throw that in. The 1.2 million Russian army is a little, maybe 20. I think about 100,000 real Russian soldiers are pre-war Russian soldiers are in Ukraine, and I still maintain that at this point that 1.1 million true Russian army is not even in Ukraine. They have different markings for their vehicles. They can be distinguished differently, and if you actually dare go into Russia, you will be met by the actual Russian military, which very well trained, very well equipped, and very well prepared. Putin has been smart, and he hasn't thrown all his eggs in one basket. He has a formidable force in Ukraine, and he still has a formidable force back in Russia. All right, guys, and I want to finish up with this cute little story because I think it is cute and adorable. Lunch Ukraine at a local school. European integration is in full swing. This is the new world order. This is the agenda of the Western powers. And so let's take a look at the Western agenda that has been accepted apparently completely by the Ukrainians. These are young Ukrainian boys in school. Look at that. Yeah, these are Ukrainian men. This is the future of manhood in Ukraine. They love it. They showcase it. They're all in on it. Oh, I'm not even going to finish this video. This is just utterly disgusting. All right, in comparison, we have here Russian young men at a military academy. The performance of a little cadet at the graduation of Nitsy, I can't say the name of the town, under Michael Jackson becomes an internet star. So these young Russian military cadets, real boys that are striving to become real men, not dress wearing. I can't say that word. Only play a little bit of it because it has a Michael Jackson song in the background. Oh yeah, so now I'm going to go silent on it. Look at him! Look at him! Let him cut that rug. All right, he's going to do a little moonwalk. Yeah! This is the future of Russia. These are real boys growing up and being taught what it is to be a man. This, if I see it over here, this is the future of Ukraine. This is what Ukrainian men are. Oh my God. This is what Western degeneracy that the Western powers are trying to force upon the world is. Keep the Western mentality out of your nations. I don't care where you are around the world. The Western culture is degenerate. It is immoral. It is demonic. It is satanic. I think that's why more and more nations around the world are looking to Russia, and when they see that men and boys are being brought up properly, that the nation still has faith, it still holds up community as an important value. I am so ashamed of Western culture. I am so ashamed of Western Christianity. All in all, I even see that Western Christianity has become corrupt and degenerate itself. Um, Anyways, let's get away from that. Happy New Year. If you still got your beer out, have a good sip. Remember, my channel's all over the place. I'm going to try to get more videos up this week. There's a lot happening, and I just have to do it to keep up with the news. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a good weekend. Bye.